Welcome to the NFL Overtime Podcast brought to you by Mafia Sports Report. I am your host, Tommy, and next to me is Curtis, my co-host, and below me, it's like the Brady Bunch over here, is Mr. Mikey,
You
also
always
known
put me
as
in the
Apex.
basement, brother. Whenever I come and be a guest somewhere, you always put me in the basement.
You go down to the basement, buddy, right down there.
He's good like that. He's good like that.
That's right.
Oh,
One day you'll get back up. One day. What's going on? Hey, angry Buffalo sports fan, appreciate you coming on, brother.
Go on, brother.
Woo, that's right. All right, so Curtis, last time we talked, I saw a lot of going. Man, Mikey, I gotta tell you, Curtis has a tough crowd. They were yelling at me, Mikey. Yelling at me in the chat. Okay, not live, but after. I heard a lot of this guy doesn't know what he's talking about because me and Curtis had a nice conversation about Josh Allen and his running, and Curtis is very nervous about our boy in blue.
I'm with you,
and he thinks Josh is taking too many shots, and I agree. But I also said Josh will be Josh, and that probably won't go away from him running the ball on his own. Meaning, and me and Mikey Curtis are actually just talking about this. I know what we were saying last week about Ken Dorsey down the back, but I don't know if a lot of these plays were designed or called for a Josh Allen run. A lot of these plays, I think Josh Allen is just taking on his own, seeing an opening or a play breaks down. And you can't really put the blame on Ken Dorsey as far as like what Dable was doing when it was designed. No. We got, that's why so to your audience, what I meant when I say Josh will be Josh, he'll always be that way, is because you can't really take that from him. That's just what he does. And I don't think he's ever going to stop taking the opportunity to run when it's there or when a play breaks down. And I get it. Like, going head on toward a linebacker, probably not the brightest thing to do, but he's also built. Yeah, but he's built like a truck. And I feel like sometimes, he understands that as well. And he just thinks he could truck over everybody. But I think he has been, Mikey, correct me if I'm wrong, he has been kind of dialing it back a little bit on that part of his game. He's still doing a little bit of it, but I think since he started in 2018, he's dialed it back.
Yeah, he went on Kyle Brandt's basement. He talked about it. In the big games, he tends to show that out more. He did a whole lot better last year, and he got down a lot more last year. However, in the first game against the Rams, there was only 3 read option plays for Josh. The other 7 carries were all off of pass plays that he took off. My only concern that really came up is we're up by 3 touchdowns with 5 minutes to go. You don't need to run. Just throw the ball away. However, Josh Allen, he's a competitor. He doesn't like to lose any plays. The coaches talked to him about it. I have a feeling going forward, he's going to be smarter about that. Pick your spots, get down. He even said when he came off the field, Matt Barkley and Case Keenum went up to him and said, "Hey, can you slide for me, please?"
Right.
Did he really need to run into Aaron Donald and when they're holding his leg, him hopping on 1 foot and let 6 guys hit him? I mean, he didn't really need to do that.
Mike, I did a little video on the shots he took. There was his melon rang on that carpet. There was one play, like you said, he was being held up and the guy came and just drilled him with his helmet.
That was the worst one.
Yeah. No, you know what the one I thought was the worst? There was 2.
The end zone one was
he
bad.
got sacked and his head snapped back. And then the actual dive for the touchdown, you could see the back of his head. I mean, he was 6 feet in the air and his head. And there was like 2 on that play. And, the thing is for me, look, I'm wearing blue now. Maybe I am. But
converting him.
Uh-oh.
I'm running out of shirts, dude. I'm running out of shirts. My wife don't like to do my laundry sometimes, and I got to do it, and I don't do it well. So I go to the last shirt. When I'm at the last shirt, that's when I'll do it, or I beg my wife. So this is the last shirt. But look, to me, Joe Burrow is so special from an intellectual standpoint, and just even having the mobility. And what's happening to him over there is sort of reminiscent of what I'm seeing with Allen. You've got two special kind of players. You could say you like this guy better, you like whatever the deal is. These guys are so high end, and they're getting the just yards and miles worn off those tires every single season. And for me, I did a whole podcast. One guy asked me to do a podcast and like a film study, and then like nobody watched it. I don't even know if he did. So I spent like all this time putting this podcast, but I learned so much, and it really helped me understand the process of a staff. And the staff, electric thing over here, the staff really needs to think short-term and long-term. Burrow is that team. Allen is this team. Now, Burrow is taking a beat, and it's not really his fault. It's just because he's got no line. But with Allen, this guy, when he finally gets to his peak mental side, he'll be able to be a pocket passer who runs when he needs to and play till he's late 30s. But if he takes that damage, it's going to wear off. This guy could be one of the best ever to play the game. Look at Cam. Cam was as big as him, and Cam just got ground up. And I think the Bills staff just needs to run the ball more, because if you run the ball more, he doesn't have the option. When you got all these high passing going on, and he has a tendency to run, he has a tendency to get hit, and teams have a tendency to dial into him. And so I just think the staff needs to, especially when you're ahead like you are, you don't need to do a play action rollout, because you know who he is. You should know your guy like he's a kid, and you just hand the ball off. You're winning. Don't even put that situation. You already had games over.
Protect him from himself.
You've got to.
Yeah, you also have to remember, Josh also has an award-winning facility there within their whole setup that helps them recover. It's different now than when Cam was in the league. They have better equipment, like the helmets are better, the whole setup's better. So although I would like to see him run less and throw more and not take shots when he doesn't need to, I have a feeling Josh would rather play his way and be out of the league at 35 than not play his way and then if they don't win or something, he feels like he left something on the field and play until he's 40. It's just the way he's ingrained.
Well, the thing is, it's just being, look, when you're as good as him and you have a team as good as him, you've only got so many arrows in the quiver.
Mm-hmm.
Just use the arrows more wisely. I mean, you just look, if the game's tied and it's a critical game, throw your body down. But you shouldn't be rolling out and booting it up like a maniac when you're up
21 with 5 minutes. Yes, I'm with you on that.
It's just, look, you love the kid because the kid is who he is, right? You love the kid because of his talent and all that stuff. But everybody has to, when we all grow up, we learn that we're not immortal, and we learn to choose, when to do things and when not to. And he's just got to follow that process. He's a guy who never was respected. He had to earn it. He had to fight his way up. Mm-hmm. And so he's got a great mindset because he is not a prima donna. But now he's past that. Now he's the leader. Now he is the franchise. And he's got to think at a higher level because, if he wants to play the way he wants to play, but there's a cost to that. And the cost could be his season, for his teammates and his franchise, not just himself, because everybody's depending on him. And so as a leader, you have to be wiser. You have to think of your people before yourself. And he is absolutely critical.
Oh, we know. He knows that as well. He talked about it on Kyle Brandt's Basement. He talked about it. He has a plan set in place with the coaching staff. And, I could sit here and say,
defending him this much.
I could sit here and say, whatever I want. At the end of the day, these guys get paid to do this stuff. I'm just some YouTuber who thinks I know football. Yep. So at the end of the day, I'll go with the professionals. If they continue to let him do that, I'll pray they have a plan in place for it. But I personally, from a fan standpoint, would love to see him not take off when we're up 21. And if he does, just get out of bounds. Throw the ball away. It's okay. You can have an incompletion.
That's
You
it.
don't have to have a 90% completion percentage. You can have
Yeah.
an 89 or an 87.
I just
You
don't.
love the moxie. Yeah, you love
I just
the
don't.
moxie.
I just don't know if it's in his DNA, man. That's why. That's why I meant, Josh will be Josh. Like that's just. I think he's just been playing like that his whole career.
Life.
Like, yeah. So
life.
like, I don't know if he knows another way.
Big
even
farm
if,
boy.
yeah, even if. And trust me, I'm sure the coaches, the coaching staff, even probably dating back in college when he got hurt, when he got his shoulder injured and he was out for a whole season, I'm sure they said, let's limit you. Let's not do this. Let's not run it as much. Like, I just don't think it's in his, I just don't think he'll stop. Like, and maybe that will shorten his career. But to Mikey's point, I think he's going to do it his way. And I will say this too. Yeah, and I will say this too. At least for me, at least in my opinion, I hated when they held Josh back a few years back, even not last year, but the year before, 2019 and 2020. I kind of felt like when they got in the playoffs, I kind of felt like Dable held Josh back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He took away a lot of that. Like, and I was saying, but just let Josh be himself. Let him play the way he wants to play. I kind of felt like they played safe ball with him in 2019 and 2020. And then they finally almost had faith in him in 2021 last year. They finally just let him be himself and take over.
It wasn't until that Tampa Bay game when they finally just unleashed.
Yeah, him. And it's up. Yeah, go listen. And I'm not saying go out there and be reckless, but he plays better when he doesn't have that I better not do this. I better when
he's not thinking.
I just think
and he's just reacting.
Yes, just play your ball and I will say if you look at his from 2018 to now, he had the one injury, which by the way wasn't even a run. When in 2018 it was a freak play. He threw the ball, got a shoulder hit. So it wasn't like he was taken off. It was bad off his line. He just kind of got sandwiched in between two guys.
That's where a lot of the injuries come from for quarterbacks is in the pocket.
Right. And I do understand about concussions and all that stuff. I think all players are going to.
Didn't he have a concussion too?
No.
Yeah.
But nothing major that kept him out.
But he didn't miss any games.
No.
He had to leave a game against the Patriots.
Correct. But he didn't miss any games.
No, he came back against the Titans the next week and beat them.
Correct. So like I said, but that stuff that's going to happen. Concussion are going to that's part of the game. You know that, Curtis. But I do agree though. Hopefully though he does kind of dial back a little bit, especially when we're up. And to Mike's point, they do need to run the ball more. Like they do need to get Singletary involved, especially later in games, like in the third, late in the third, in the fourth quarter. Let's grind. Like Singletary can carry the ball very well. Let's get the chains moving. Let's get the time going off the clock there. But I don't know. We'll see. It's week one.
I was surprised Saffold you weren't running behind Saffold and Dog.
Me too.
We did it coming out of the half, the first drive.
Yes, the first drive was beautiful.
Then you didn't see much of it after. It was odd. But you know what? We can sit here and talk Bills all night long. That's not what we're here about. We're here about
we just did that.
Of the NFL.
So I'm gonna get back to
what you guys are doing. So
no, it's fine, Mikey. I just wanted to bring up the Josh Allen because it was interesting.
I wish I was there to protect you, Tommy.
No, it was after. It was after. No, believe it or not, it wasn't during.
I ain't defending like I should.
It was after, but it's all good. Listen, they're Dolphin fans. What do you expect? Anyway, so.
Oh man, my fans gave you a complex, man. I'm sorry.
Damn you, Dolphin fans.
That's great. I love it.
That is hilarious.
All right, so I do want to get to some week one games that were interesting. The first one I want to get to. Chicago beating San Francisco in a really crappy environment there in Chicago. Yeah.
It was a downpour, dude.
19 to really bad. But that's football, and I don't mind it sometimes. So 19-10, it was an upset. Chicago won. I'm gonna start with you, Curtis. Trey Lance Is he ready? Like, do you think they made a mistake there by pulling Jimmy G, or do they just continue to go with Trey Lance?
They got no choice. You spend 7 drafts on it, though. You got to go with them, man. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really see the game, so I can't make any sweeping judgments. But he didn't have a good game, and neither one of them really did.
No,
it was about the mobile quarterbacks making a big play, occasional throw, occasional run.
He made a boneheaded play, boneheaded interception that really changed the game.
Well, he has so little experience. You know what I mean? It was such a risky roll of the dice for San Fran to do what they did. And who knows how it's going to play out? I mean, this is his second year now. So you got 2 more years before you got to already put the 5th-year, tag on him and start paying him big money. Who knows? I mean, they got Jimmy G still. So, I mean, I guess they could always go back. But supposedly, Lance was feeling a little upset that they decided to no longer. I don't know. I don't think it's going to go well. It's a shame. It was a really good build team, really well built team, and I thought they probably could have traded. They probably could have just traded back and got Mac Jones and played it safe. But they rolled the dice. They went with the big, tough, awesome talent. They're trying to do with Josh Allen. So Josh Allen took 3 years. He's didn't really have a year 1. He's got a year 2 now. So you're going to have to wait to year 4 and cross your fingers that he's that kind of guy. But
Also,
I don't know if he is.
He was rawer than Josh was. Josh still had some, FCS games under his belt.
Yeah.
You have to remember, Trey Lance came out of high school, played 1 year of college, and then played 1 game, and then went out to the draft. So he has less games than Allen had coming in. So he was Lance is just a ball of talent. Can you figure him out and get him to, get him to play at this high level? Like, we didn't even see him in college play real well. So it'll be interesting to see how it works out. I mean, Shanahan bet his future on him.
Yep. And so did what's his face, the GM.
Lynch. Yeah. John Lynch.
Yeah.
They say they're not so much sure how much actual power he has as a GM. Who knows? But that's the thing. The difference between me, Allen was a guy with all his talent who never had respect. He had to keep fighting for it. Mm-hmm. Trey Lance is a guy who everyone was rolling over for, and he got the red carpet rolled out for him. So it could end up being 2 different kind of personas. I mean, he's already upset, and he's already been given the golden boy treatment. So who knows what's under that hood as far as mentality? That's going to be the key. Anybody with that kind of talent can eventually become something. If they have the hunger, they have the humility, they have the dedication. So to me, that's what's going to come down.
They have to have the want.
Right.
They have that want. Like, Josh Allen wanted to be great. He sought out every possible solution to get better. Like, he was willing to break down and go to like a tracker to have his throwing mechanics mapped and change them. Like, he was humble and realized that maybe I don't have the best anything. And
Trey Lance went to the stripper club after his loss, so he's dedicated too.
Highly
dedicated.
So basically, what I'm hearing is you have LeBron and James Harden is the 2 difference.
Yeah.
LeBron is the kid who figured out how to be the best, and James Harden was the guy who lived at the strip club and just relied on his talent.
Yeah, but you got to remember, you got to have you also got to have a coach and a GM to build around your quarterback, which Buffalo did very well. You know what I mean?
Team is stacked.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't mean it works for Trey Lance's style. You know what I mean? Like, I thought they did, like, what they did for Josh is they built around him the way they built around him, right? They got him, then they built around him. So maybe I think Trey Lance was already with the squad already, and Jimmy G was already rolling with that team. I don't know. To me, I'll be honest with you. I think it was a mistake to start him this season. I just do. Like, you still got Jimmy G under contract. You couldn't move him. Just keep him there 1 more season. Have him start. Have Trey back him up. Learn a little bit more. right? Then you start him the
Aaron
next
Rodgers
season.
took 3 years, sat on the bench for 3 years, and then started.
Right. What was the rush there? You just got back from almost going to a Super Bowl. There was no point. Like, listen, if they didn't get to a playoffs last year or they just did terrible, I get it. Fine. You know what? It ain't working. Jimmy G took us as far as we can get. It's Trey's time. But why now? Like, it doesn't make sense. So I just think I think honestly they're doing them injustice, if anything. And I also don't like Justin Fields. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a fan of him. I don't see his career going anywhere. I could be wrong. They're both young guys. And I don't follow them like crazy. So don't kill me, guys. Who, if you're a Bears fan or 49ers fan, I'm just outside looking in. You know what I mean? I'm just saying I don't see it. I could be wrong. I also don't see it for Tua. I could be wrong. And I'm
out of here.
Curtis is out of here now.
Sign it off.
Yeah. But ultimately,
but hey, a lot of people didn't see it in Allen, so it is what it is.
To that game, though, Tommy, it was a
it was a
weather game.
I get it.
It was
sloppy.
I get it. It was 10-0 Niners at half. They came out and Mitchell got hurt. Fumbles. Like, it was a team loss. Like,
no, of course.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, Lance missed some wide open guys.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it was a team loss. It wasn't just a
we'll see. Like I said, listen, I always say 3 years. I give everyone 3 years, even the coaches. Yep. I always say I think it's a 3-year window for me. If you haven't shown improvement by year 3, you got to move on. You have to. Even coaches. Like, you can't just be what you are for 3 years. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm not gonna. They're still, what are they on, year 2? So I'm not gonna kill them.
It was a horrible dump.
It was. Like, no doubt. We played. I get it. So I'm not gonna
understand why they didn't run him more. Like, honestly, in a game like that, they should have ran him more. Like, we're talking about Allen and his running. Like, that's the type of game that you should see your quarterback take
I
off
agree.
When he's a mobile quarterback, because they can't plan for that. And he, they should have used his athleticism for him. Put your players in the best position to succeed. Mm-hmm. Play to their strengths. Dropping back in a monsoon, throwing the ball when your guy isn't real accurate anyways, or isn't considered elite accurate, is probably not putting him in a position to succeed.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
Yep. Well, we'll see. Like I said, the verdict's still out.
But what do I know?
Verdict's still out, but Chicago's been a mess.
You know a lot there on that one.
Yeah, Chicago's been a mess, though.
Good acumen, high acumen on that one there, Mikey.
Mm-hmm. Next game. I guess you can call this an upset. Pittsburgh beating Cincinnati 23-20 in overtime. What a wild game. I never watched games like that. I usually watch Red Zone, but I went right to that game in the fourth quarter. It was crazy. So 5 turnovers by the Bengals. 4 interceptions by Burrow. Yeah, Burrow had 4. So you're telling me 5 interceptions, they still had 5 turnovers, still had a chance to win? That's wild. So it wasn't like Pittsburgh was lighting it up either. They made their share of mistakes. Trubisky played. I thought he played okay. I didn't think he played great, but once again, week 1. Yeah, he's definitely, at least from what I see so far, he seems like might be that system quarterback for Pittsburgh. We'll see.
You can't expect him to play above and put the team on his back. He'll play within the system. You can win with him. You're not going to win because of him.
Right,
he's a stopgap to the what's his face, the young kid.
Yeah, that's all it is. What's his name? The
Kenny
rookie
Pickett.
over there.
Kenny Pickett. I watched him in the preseason. He didn't look all that great either. Like, everyone's like, "Oh, look how great he was." He was playing against third string guys who were going to be bagging groceries.
Yeah.
But that's where they're
he's a
they're thinking he is. But if they're smart, they sit like there's a Steeler fan that come to my bar and he was saying, "Oh, I really want to have Pickett start." And I'm like, "Listen, bro, I'll be honest with you. It would be a mistake. Like, start Trubisky. He for the first year, have him sit. There's no reason right now. Even if you guys started him, you're not going anywhere with him the first season. It wouldn't make a difference. He's not there yet. So, anyways, we'll see. But Burrow taking mad sacks and getting hit like crazy again. I think they had some wild stat. It was like, what was it, 24 sacks in the last 3 games or something like that, Mikey?
Yeah, and they spent
Crazy.
all that money in this offseason to upgrade that offensive line.
And it's still.
But granted, he was playing against T.J. Watt and
I get it, but
Hayward. Like,
woo.
that's a good front line. But, man, they just teed off on him.
Yeah, he was. Whew.
I did a whole podcast. I spent a lot of time, probably too much time. I went my German full OCD mode, and really what it came down to, because this is something I've been thinking about for a while with this guy. You as an organization and as a staff, you create a philosophy and an intention and a scheme, and you have all that, and then you got all this talent underneath. And so you need to have the least amount of incongruency between what you want to do and the assets and positive skill sets of your players. The more incongruency you have, the more problems you have, and the less likely you're able to achieve your goals, to fulfill your philosophy and whatever your intentions are. Now, they have the perfect philosophy and intention with the way their offense is designed with Joe Burrow. Problem is, in order to get this greatest show on turf vertical offense, you need an offensive line to protect this guy, because this guy is such a rare asset. Franchises go their whole history without finding a guy like this. You get a guy like this, you put Swiss cheese in front of him, and he's still able to make a nice egg sandwich out of it with cheese on top and the whole thing, and then even get you to Super Bowl. But along the way, the guy's getting eviscerated. And it's because week in and week out, you have an uncompromising idea of this vertical offense with your quarterback pushing the ball downfield and being super cool and making the right decisions. But your guy keeps getting diced up because you don't have the offensive line to support him, and you're uncompromising. When I watched that game, the very first play, it was weird. Like, Joe had 3 wide receivers on the right, and they were playing over coverage, and they had an out. Simple out. He's staring at him, and the guy's wide open, and all of a sudden he just went off him, went the other way, and I think it's I can't remember the left guard's name now, something with a V. He gave up the pressure, and then Joe's on a run, and then Jonah hits him, and he gets sacked. And then the next play, he sticks to that side. He gets pressure in his face. He misses the underneath, and he tries to throw this really tight coffin corner throw over a cornerback, and he throws a little short. He gets picked off by Minka for a touchdown. And then they keep doing the same thing. 3 wide receivers running to the 10-yard mark, and occasionally they got a guy dropping out into coverage on the side. I don't like that play design. There's never that easy throw for the guy. You don't see a lot of slants. You don't see multi-level attacks where he just has to process from one side. It's like, here you go, Joe. Let's attack. 10 yards. And he keeps getting lit up like a Christmas tree. Jonah Williams is okay, but he was getting beat. Then you got La'el Collins, who's going against Watt. And you're like, let's keep going deep. They ran the ball a lot, but he threw 53 times.
Yep.
And it's just they have this design, and they don't have the offensive line, and they refuse to help this kid out and play a patient game when they got a pretty good defense. And so to me, it really starts with the coach and with the GM. Those are the 2 big problems. So yeah, Andrew Luck, exactly.
That's a great comment, by the way.
Yeah, Andrew Luck ultimately got sick of being hurt, so he hung it up. He's like,
Yep.
And Andrew Luck
was special. He was special.
He was so damn good, man. And he just couldn't. They could never seem to get it right protecting him, and he just got tired of taking the hits. Imagine, man. I was shocked when he retired, but got to understand where he was coming from, man. That dude,
he was
super
smart too.
Destroyed.
Yeah, he was smart. He wanted to be able to have a life outside of football, and he's like, what? If I keep doing this, I'm not gonna. I'm sick of being in rehab. I'm sick of doing this every year. So they moved on. What I would like to see Cincinnati do is do kind of what if you want to go back and watch what Buffalo did last week, they use their tight ends and their fullback to chip on the inside and give help where it was needed. So, why not? Why only run 3 routes? That's fine. Run 3 routes. If you want to run deep, run deep. But leave your tight end and your fullback on the field to chip, and then have you Mixon or whoever be your safety valve. If the guy gets through, you pitch it out to him and let him go. Like, you can still run your vertical concepts, but give help to that O line so you don't get your quarterback killed. That goes back to the head coach not running a scheme that's congruent to his players.
That's that young
Put
coach.
your players in position for success, right? We talked about this earlier with Trey Lance.
Basic coaching 101.
Yep.
Yeah, that's these young coaches, though. I'm telling you, these are kind of their.
Mixon's a good runner, man.
He's a great runner. He's one of the best in the league.
He can catch. They don't use him in the pass game, but he can catch the ball. Use him as the safety valve. If you're dropping back and you're running, 2 verticals and a shallow, and you're going high to low, and you see that guy get through, your running back's right here in the flat. Flip it out to him and let him do the work.
Yeah, they're gonna have to
figure out something
and figure it out quick, because he will not make it a full season if it continues to be that way, regardless if it's Pittsburgh or not.
Too. Just think about it. He had the surgery year 1. Then he had supposedly something after the Super Bowl. Then in the offseason, he had an appendectomy, and he's been beaten for 3 years now. I mean, the body's going to quit. And this guy's acumen is not Manning level, but it's very high.
Yeah, and he's not huge. He's really not a huge guy.
Yeah. Moving on, Philly beat Detroit in a shootout, really. Yeah. 38. Yeah.
Philly jumped out to a huge lead, and then they pulled the Brian Dable, took the foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And let Detroit come back to cover.
Yeah, 38-35. I mean, I watched a little bit of that game. I thought Detroit actually started good. Then they had some stupid unforced errors, kind of, Jared Goff style. Doing golf. Yeah, and Goff kind of doing golf things. And then I thought Philly was starting to run a wave with it. And to your point, Mikey, they kind of just eased off the pedal. And Detroit crept back. And, man, they got some really good running backs there. Swift is a beast, man. I really like Hawkinson a lot, their tight end.
Oh, God, he's so good.
Yeah, man. They, as soon as they get a quarterback in there, and I'm not saying Goff is terrible, because, man, I wish – honestly, if they were to maybe next year they get one, keep Goff one more year, let him sit. Same thing, man. That's a great quarterback to sit behind, but they need a franchise quarterback. They need a new guy in there to kind of turn this thing around. But I love their coach. Yeah, but and I love what they're building. But their coach that's where it's at, Mikey. And we always say this, right? It starts from the top. And I live in Detroit, and Detroit's a mess. The Tigers are a mess. The Pistons are a mess. Pistons are finally got a GM, though. Seems like he knows what he's doing. I know it's off topic, but it makes a huge difference. And you could see it. And the Lions, maybe now, they got this guy, this coach, who by the way, was interim for the Dolphins. And I was in Miami at that time. And I'm like, damn, give this guy a chance. And I'm not even a Dolphin fan. I thought he brung it just like you see it. What you see now is what he did in Miami. Man, he was like, all right. And man, he was like, the players they rally around this guy. And I made a great point to somebody yesterday who was did a live stream. I told her, I said it was a Lions content girl. I told her, man, the difference was the players did not want to play for Patricia, and they didn't respect him. They respect the hell out of MCDC, and they want to play for him. They want to fight for him. And you're going to see that through the season. They may not make the playoffs, and I know they won't. So guys, let's just let's just push the brakes down a little bit. But you're going to see their growth. I truly believe that as the years go on. I don't think they're going to be this won't be a Patricia team. This is going to be a team on the rise. I think. Could be wrong. What do you think, Curtis?
Well, I wanted Ross to hire him, but Ross is scared of men. He likes, he likes his kind of guy, which is the squirrely dude. That's probably why he had issues with Flores.
Yes, man. The yes man.
Yeah, totally. So I wish they had hired him. I wasn't sure if he was going to be a good coach, but he went over with Peyton over at New Orleans, I think, and spent some time there, and that's like a good sign if Peyton's taking you on. And so then he went to Detroit, and I was like, all right, he's got all these big, like his little interviews were a little off the wall, like professional wrestling. I'm like, I don't know, it's going to either go really well or it's going to like off the rails,
like the kneecap.
Yeah, dude, that was great.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, don't do that.
I know, but he pulled it off, man.
He
did.
So. He did. I watched a little bit of the Hard Knocks too, just a little bit. And
how'd that go?
Bro, this guy's doing push-ups with him.
Mm-hmm.
you
know how you get your players. You know how you get your players to respect you? Be honest with them.
Yeah.
Be real. You don't have to come in and be fake. Be you. And that's what he's done from the very beginning. He walked in to change the culture. He showed that he cared about them as humans, not as just as players, but as humans. And he gets down and he does the up downs with them and does all the different things. And he's like, we're in it as together. You go back and look at what Buffalo did. Buffalo did the same thing with Sean McDermott. He showed him that he cared. That's how you get people to follow you and change the culture. You be yourself. Don't try to be fake. People can read through that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of Rex Ryan.
That's funny. Yeah. That's funny.
He was on Pat McAfee about he's doing the sponsoring Dr. Scholl's. So funny, bro. Because of the foot fetish. So great. I gotta say, he found his niche, man. I didn't think he was a terrible coach. I will say this to all you Buffalo fans. I know you're gonna get on me about the Rex Ryan thing. But I thought, listen, he got to the playoffs with the Jets a couple seasons when he probably shouldn't have. But I thought he got them kind of far for a limited team with a limited quarterback and Sanchez. So he wasn't that bad. I just think he was maybe not for a full coach. Maybe defense coordinator, I think was his calling. But I think he found a new calling. I think he's a character. He's such a character and what he's doing now. I love it.
He really is.
I love him,
because he's the character. And MCDC, when he decides to hang it up, will be a fantastic media guy too, because he has that character to him.
Yeah, he will. Like Sean McDermott couldn't do it. No, I love Sean McDermott, but that's not his. He won't be going. Yeah, he won't be going to the media when he's done. He's not that outgoing of a guy.
Bill Belichick, same way. He's not going to go become a media guy because he's not.
God no.
That guy's going to coach till he dies.
So, all right, Tommy, you want to
moving forward. So the next game, kind of intriguing. Now, I had the Dolphins winning this game. Anyways, I picked you guys. But I thought it would be a little closer. I think I had it 24-21. You guys winded up, the Dolphins won 20-7. You had a defensive touchdown. So really you scored 13 on offense. I'm going to lead it to you, Curtis, since this is your team. You followed them. How do you feel the Dolphins overall played, I guess, on both sides of the ball? What concerns you? What did you like?
Well, I think the Dolphins definitely benefited from being home. They definitely benefited from a clear day. They definitely benefited from Patricia being the OC. He's not bad, but he just doesn't have that flair. Like McDaniels has flair. He knew when to call that screen play. He had those nice little rubs and nice little combinations, like in the corner when he needed a few yards. I mean, Patricia Cole's like a run on 3rd and 3, and it was just like I kind of felt like there was no magic. It wasn't bad per se. I think that, they didn't really run the football too well, and I really didn't like the zone stretch as much. I think they really need to go back to like a complementary of maybe inside zone and outside zone. I don't know if the outside zone is going to, really ride with them. And, Mac had one bad, I don't even know if it was his fault. It really looked like Brown. And they got the interception at the fumble return for the touchdown. And then there was that obvious pass interference that was pulled back. But the Dolphins made their plays. I thought McDaniel called a better game as far as patience and keeping his team without making mistakes. But the Dolphins' offensive line was so bad, man. I don't think, maybe I'm deluded. But from my standpoint, when I look at it and I see that you've got Cedric Wilson, you got Hill, you got Waddle, and you got Gesicki, and you spend 85 and 90% of the day in 2 wide receiver, 12-man, teacup looks. You have to ask yourself, why? Why would a guy with that much talent stay that tight and stay in 12 personnel when that's what we did last year to the tune of 62%? It makes no sense. But when you look at the lack of protection they're able to give and offer, they would go to 2-3 wide receiver sets and the pressure would be there, and so they'd have to dump it off. And so this lack of offensive line is constricting everything. It's a black hole, and they were not lucky to escape the day, but it wasn't a convincing win. It was a good win. It was a must-needed win. If they didn't get that win, they were screwed. The doors are now open for the season. Anything's possible, but there is a lot of red alert signs. Teron got injured. He was limited all week. And then Jackson, he got hurt. He's out. And this offensive line looks like it could be a major, major, major issue. If they can handle the Ravens this week, then I'll back off that stance, but I really don't know. So I like the win, but I felt like a lot of stuff was exposed. And the Bills next week and the Ravens this week are really going to show what this team's about as far as their ceiling. I think they set a good floor, but that offensive line is no bueno.
I do got to ask you real quick. Oh, go ahead, Mikey.
They will be tested the next 2 weeks. You know, this week coming against that Ravens team who has a fantastic defense, and then we'll see what the Bills defense looks like against the Titans. But you know, if they live up to what we saw in Week 1, that offensive line is going to be tested and can be tested quickly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I do want to ask you real quick, Curtis, and I did send you this, I think yesterday. Article actually was Ryan Fitzpatrick was on a podcast. He said, speaking about Tua,
he's like, what do you think about this?
I had to ask you. The one is really interesting because it was a coach that you guys wanted to hire. So that was kind of interesting to hear from him.
What did he say? What did Peyton say? I didn't
All
even see it.
So Ryan Fitzpatrick, first I'll start with him. Ryan Fitzpatrick says Tua is very limited physically, which I've been saying that, and I kind of feel like that is where Tua struggles. Like he's saying basically because of his injuries, he can't really get out and scramble to make a play happen when things break down. He's very limited. His accuracy is very good, but he has to be great at that in order for you guys to kind of go to the next level, which he doesn't think is going to happen. Sean Payton, he said he predicts the Dolphins will bench your quarterback this season and go with the backup quarterback. I forget his name, but
well, I'll handle Peyton's first. I think he's just saying stuff to say stuff because it makes no sense. Like if you're a head coach and this guy knows more than he's forgotten more than I know. So I'm not gonna pretend like whatever. But if you look at this offensive line and it's utterly Swiss cheese, you haven't had a run game since the flood. Drew Brees would fail with this offensive line. Drew Brees had 6 years of pedestrian play before he actually arrived in year 7 and 8. And he needed a Teron Armstead staying healthy along with a whole host of other offensive linemen just to get it going. So to me, it's almost like, hey, I'm saying stuff. So if I need a job, I can get out.
You got to remember too, Teddy Bridgewater played with Sean Payton in New Orleans. So it is kind of his guy in a way that he's you gotta. I'm just saying, you gotta. But I will say this. I did predict it as well. Mikey could say that. Mikey, I told you this. I have a feeling, and now mind you, this also could be because of injury, but I have a feeling Teddy will wind up being your starter some point in the season, whether that be injury or whether that be injury. No. I'm just saying either injury, which you'll have to play him, or it'll be just desperation, meaning you guys wind up not playing too well, and the coach wants to make a change at some point of the season. I don't know, but I just have a feeling you will see Teddy Bridgewater some point in the season.
By the second Bills game, right? That's what you had said.
Yeah, I do. I think somewhere mid season you'll see the change, and it could be, like I said, due to injury. And following to his career, it's not like it's not possible. Like you're saying the offensive line is as bad as they are or been playing. The chances are even higher for him. He's been injured since high school. I mean, it's followed his career, so it's not.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
he's a smaller stature guy. You know, he is.
Yeah.
He needs the like he was so good at Alabama because he had 5 first-round offensive linemen in front of him.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Sorry,
DJ.
Yeah.
No, but my thing is like I really believe in nuance. I believe that when you talk about something, like they'll say he's physically limited. Well, okay. Well, obviously he's a little shorter. Breeze is a little shorter.
Yeah.
Michael Vick, he had the speed, but he was shorter. Len Dawson was shorter. I mean, you got Russell Wilson. No, he's got a bigger arm. He's more mobile. He's shorter. Obviously, this whole thing, he says, I can't see the receivers because, I'm short. We all know this. And if it gets turned into like this big thing, he cannot run to the outside and beat people with his speed. But in short areas, he's got phenomenal ability to move. When things break down, if the pocket is maintained, he can scramble and get up there and do some pretty good stuff. You saw him multiple times against the Patriots. A free blitz would come and he does a spin and he gets out. So he has agility, he has short area movement. So he has some skills. And he also has an extremely fast release. So to say he's got no gifts, it's like there's no nuance. You know what I mean? It's just it's kind of like just talk to talk. And so this guy needs a offensive line that can generate a running attack so he can use the RPO, he can use the play action to boot out, he can use his quick release, and then he can draw defenses up, and then he can get over the top and use the accuracy and the throwing location. But until you have a run game, until you have an offensive line, all his positive skill sets aren't really being utilized. You're saying, let's just have him throw to win. And he can't do that at this stage and likely never will, but neither could Breeze unless he had a very well-designed offense that could pass protect and you could put 4 or 5 guys out there into routes and you find the one guy that's open. But what they're doing now is putting 2 guys into routes and keeping everybody into protect, and they still can't run the football and they still can't protect. So who would drive? I mean, I'm asked who would drive in this system. I'm looking for a quarterback. Name me one quarterback with this off, and you're going to see this offensive line implode. And you're going to see 12 personnel. Like if you're in offense and you spend $25 million on a receiver, 2 first-round draft picks on another receiver, and you paid big to get another receiver to be your third down back, and then you got Gesicki, who's 6'6", who's mid to late clock receiver, and you're playing teacup with 1 wide receiver or 2 wide receiver, and you're playing in narrow, it says something is seriously screwed up. And I don't think
2 quarterbacks. I think 2 quarterbacks could probably make that work. Lamar Jackson, because he's fast enough and elusive enough to get outside. Josh Allen, because he's done it in Buffalo. He the way he evades and is able to get outside to make plays happen. But outside, unless you have a quarterback who can play above the system, that truly can play above the system, you can't succeed unless you have an offensive line that gives you a little bit of time, or have a offense that's built for quick hitting, so that can take away from that.
And that's what Fitzpatrick ultimately said. I mean, like to create a play, like create his own play. He doesn't, and we'll see. Like I said, man, we'll see on the Dolphins. Like to Curtis says, but that's on the GM, that's on the coaching staff. Yeah. They need to surround this guy with better protect. Yeah, use your exactly
strengths.
If you know he's
if you know put
he's
him in the
limited,
backfield,
right? If you know he's limited on certain things, then you need to change up your offense a little bit to protect to a little bit better. You need
Well,
to
but you can't. No,
or
listen.
get it out of his hand quicker. You need
No,
to
what I'm
figure
saying-
something
no,
out.
they literally, listen. Okay. I'm not a big PFF guy. Their left guard, who they spent a second and third round pick, his pass protection grade was 30, and his run block grade was 20 out of 100. See, I mean, and the right tackle was 46 pass protection grade and 39 run blocking grade. I mean, you can't create anything when you listen. I mean, think about this. You paid big money to Tehran, who's great, but he's already injured now, coming off an injury. You paid a second and third round to Eichenberg, who's not even a backup level. You brought Connor in and you paid him a solid money, and he's pretty good. He's doing pretty good. Then you paid a second round to Hunt, and he's okay. He's getting to be pretty good. Then you paid a first round to Jackson, who's now injured, who cannot play. He's not even really a backup. And then you paid 2 fourth rounds for Kinley, who's not here. A third round to Dieter, who's not here. So you got nothing. This is probably the worst offensive line. Last year's was the worst offensive line I've seen in 43 years by like a country mile. Allen would not survive because he's not fast enough. Maybe Lamar because he could actually scramble around and make, but Allen's not fast enough. He would take so many beatings. Lamar is so quick twitch that he can get out there and scramble and do that thing, and maybe he'd survive the season, but he wouldn't thrive. I'm
gonna contact Brandon Bean. We have a guy we could send your way for.
We need him.
Bobby Hart. This guy, he could come. He could come to you right now. We'll give him up give us a 4th round pick. We'll take a 4th. Oh, come on! How dare you?
We signed Empey. Empey is like a street guy, and Dolphin fans are like, oh, dude, we can put him in there. It's going to be great. Dude, Empey is a street guy, and he's better than Eichenberg, who you spent a second and third round on. You missed Creed. You missed Cosme. This year, you passed Zach Tom, who you could have had in the 4th round. You grabbed the linebacker, and he started for the Green Bay Packers, and he wasn't
Dylan Parham. Dylan Parham for the Raiders.
Yeah.
He went in the third.
Guy talking. Yeah, I heard somebody mention that today in the comments.
Dylan Parham.
There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah. I want to get to the last game this interesting game. There was other ones, but we're already on 50 minutes. So Monday Night Football. Curtis, me and you were wrong. Seattle won.
I kept thinking that. I'm like, uh-oh.
Because me and Curtis were like, we didn't even talk about this game.
It's gonna be a blowout.
Oh man!
Thought, but man,
so
talk about
Seattle,
a blunder at the end.
Unbelievable.
Oh my! We're gonna get to that. So Seattle, to their credit, and to their fans' credit, I gotta say that too. They have really good fans. We're the best fans. Bills Mafia is the best, but Seattle's up there. They bring it. I will give them credit. That stadium gets loud. They booed the hell. They booed the hell out of Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson is so irritating. I gotta tell you guys.
Oh, I know. He looks so fake. He looks so fake.
Yes.
I really don't like that guy anymore.
I mean, I used to like him, but it seems like he's such a show. Like everything, he knows where the camera. Like he's just, I don't know. Like something about him rubs me the wrong way. Either way, Geno Smith, who I thought for sure was gonna play awful. Not that he played great, but he played pretty damn good.
Yeah. Played Russell.
He led him to victory. And what the hell happened on that drive with their young dumb coach? And it was so funny. I don't know if you guys watched
I put that on Wilson. I don't even put that on
well, we talked about this.
Wilson.
No, I put it on both. Because listen, you're a pro. You've been in this league a long time. You're respected. If you would have called a timeout, you think the coach was going to yell at you at that point? Like, no way. You should have been like, damn, why is he not calling a timeout? I'm going to call it. He has the power to do that. You're the leader. You are the quarterback. You are the quarterback. You are the franchise. You're the one they're paying buku money. I don't think the coach would have been like reaming him out on a sideline, right? He would have totally understood why he took the timeout, right? And then the kicker, and we didn't really talk about this, Mikey. They go for a 64-yard that the guy never kicked outside of Denver. They call a timeout after he misses it. They have another opportunity to change the play, to go for it again, and they chose to kick it again. Wow. So what a disaster from the time management to the – then they had another opportunity and still went for it. Curtis,
okay,
what happened?
Before Curtis goes.
Oh, go ahead, Mikey. Go ahead.
Yeah, so before Curtis goes, and that's not even the worst part about it. They had the ball inside the 5 twice and fumbled it away.
Yeah, it was bad.
The Broncos outplayed the Seahawks from the beginning to the end and found a way to lose. Yeah. That's hard.
Yeah, I know, but they still had opportunity. But they still had an opportunity to win. And if you're paying a guy that much money, you gave up that much
a year.
Yeah, and you gave up draft picks, all that crap. You leave it up to your star quarterback to get you the 4 or 5 yards needed. Yep. That's it, man. And if it doesn't happen, oh well. I think they would have been more respected that they gave it to him. If I'm Russell Wilson, I'm going what? Like I'm begging the coach. Josh Allen. There's no way in hell Josh Allen would have.
He said when he came out and said, "Oh, that was the right call."
I know that's what I'm saying, but there's no way like for instance, I know we're going on our team, but there's no way in hell Josh Allen would have done that.
There's no way Burrow.
Yeah, none of those guys.
Brady. There's no way.
No, hell no.
There's no way none of those guys are giving the ball up on 4th and 5.
No way. Or they would have let the time run out. What was the point of that?
They would have. All of them would have called a timeout.
100%.
With 50 seconds left and called a play because you have higher percentage. If you're analytics and you go analytics, there's a higher percentage to get the 4 or 5 yards you need than make a 64-yarder.
100%.
In that condition.
And they had 3 timeouts. It wasn't like if they had one time, fine. I would be like,
meltdown.
Totally. All right, Curtis, go ahead. Because sorry.
Oh, the coach wet the bed, dude. I mean, he let so much time. Okay, so you're going to kick a field goal. And so if you don't get it, the other team gets it. You got 2 timeouts. So you let like 40 seconds go down before he calls a timeout. He was just melting down. Inside his head was like fireworks. He was like, oh! And then after they missed the field goal, he's like arguing with the ref, trying to get the ball position and trying to call a timeout. Like, it was like such a show of stupidity. To me, it says this guy is inside him is like wax, and it's just gonna melt, and this whole thing is gonna melt down around him. He wasn't ready. He's not ready, and inside him doesn't have the metal to survive the NFL. It was such a bad show. I was like, oh man, I really feel good about McDaniel, man. This guy's got more guts than this dude. I mean, I got the little guy, but at least he's got guts, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
This guy is like, with the lion going to the Wizard of Oz looking for some courage, man. I was like, this guy's bad. And Russell Wilson, I don't know. You can see him. He was like a zombie too, when he lost, trying to smile and sign every of the shirts. Like he's like, I mean, it was just so bad. But I'm going to tie this back to my Dolphins. Russell was blitzed and had pressure 35% of the time. He had 17 rushes for like 100 yards. And his performance, he actually had double the yak of Tua. He had 230 and Tua had like 100 and something. And the performances were nearly the same. So, Seattle's a lesser team than the Patriots. They have the edge because they kind of know Wilson. And so that's why, so then to me, if you're going to say, people like, oh, Tua sucks. But look at what Russell did. He had more support. He had a little bit less pressure. He had more production from his receivers as far as yak. He did not sit in 12 personnel all day, and still Tua outperformed him. And so for me, it shows that not everything is everything. You got to kind of have to look at things in a certain way. And I go back to my guy. I don't think he's as good as Wilson. Wilson's got the bigger arm and the more mobility. But we should be saying that too. Russell Wilson sucks.
Does he still have the bigger arm? I watched Russell Wilson underthrow probably 6 balls. Jerry Jeudy mossed somebody and took it to the house to save Russell Wilson.
Really?
Jerry Jeudy was open by 10 yards, and he underthrew him by 10 yards. He had to come back and get it and jump over.
I remember him having a much bigger arm in like the last.
Like
when I watched him.
that night. Oh, you know what it almost looked like? It almost looked like he was shaving points, and then they lost. That's what it almost looked like.
It was
bad. It was a bad.
It
show.
was bad. Mikey, I want to get to week 2 because Curtis.
Yes.
He's an hour guy, so
Yeah,
we're already on the hour.
My Derek Cole shot every hour.
Yeah. So, Mikey, I'm going to turn it to you, but I want you to start with the Charger Chiefs, though. But go ahead.
Okay.
That game
So,
happened.
the Charger Chiefs. I know we talked a little bit about this before, Curtis. The Chiefs won 27-24. You know, it wasn't really that great of a game, honestly. Like I thought. You know, everyone talks about how great the Chiefs are. I thought they were let off the hook. The Chargers, you know, had opportunities multiple times to make big plays and take the game over, and they just failed to do so. And then they just found, you know, Mahomes found a way at the end, like he always does, to win the game if you don't capitalize on the mistakes early. Any thoughts on that game going out outside of Herbert being, you know, day to day now with fractured ribs?
Well, you know, we were talking about it before. I'll go back to I thought this offensive line was going to be phenomenal. They've really got a lot of pieces there. You see a lot of talent. They've invested a lot in it. But Eckler had a terrible production the last 2 weeks. They haven't been able to run the football. And to me, that's a critical aspect. You know, it's like, okay, Allen can kind of get away with it. But I still think that it drains away from what his potential is and a lot of other things. But for 90% of the quarterbacks, and I think for any quarterback that really wants to get to that championship level, they need some level of running tech. Now, some running quarterbacks need more than others. Mm-hmm. But you can't have that kind of production with the investment to this offensive line like the Chargers have. Chiefs outrushed them, which I was like taking. It's like I think it was double or something like that.
Yeah,
and so that's like my big beef or concern, because I really thought the Chargers were going to come together with that offensive line. I mean, there's a lot of good pieces. They were pretty good last year. They added some more pieces, but it so far it doesn't look like it's materializing. And there was a big letdown to me. I really don't. I thought they were going to be there to like really kind of challenge you guys, but Broncos ain't in it. You know, Chiefs are looking all over the place. They just look as inconsistent as ever. I mean, talented, explosive, but you know, I don't think they're going to have the stuff. Chargers look like they're melting down as usual, especially with him getting injured. I mean, Colts and the Titans maybe, but Titans got so many injuries. Ryan is still trying to figure his way with the Colts. That offensive line's not blocking as well as I thought. And then you got the Dolphins. I don't see them doing it at this point. I mean, maybe they'll shock me. And then who else you got?
Baltimore.
Really Baltimore. Yeah, another division. Bengals.
They don't have the wide receivers.
Raiders, who I don't trust.
Yeah,
I don't trust Derek Carr. Yeah, I don't trust them.
Yeah.
So who do you got? I mean, the Ravens, they're a good team, but that secondary is all. I think
they're limited on offense too. I'm telling you. Even though the Jets game, go ahead. Go ahead,
the top teams are Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincy, Baltimore are probably the 4 top teams right now. You could probably throw the Chargers in there because Herbert is uberly talented, and they have a great D line. It's really going to come down to what can that offensive line do and what does that secondary do, because J.C. Jackson was burned for a touchdown. Asante Samuels Jr.'s dropped 2 picks that could have changed the game. If they don't get those guys to play better, it's going to be the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, and probably the Bengals in the Final 4.
Yeah, and keeping Herbert clean, man, because Herbert was taking.
He was taking big hits.
Man, he was taking
that's serious.
Massive hits. He was taking massive hits in that game. But I'm not. I'm not impressed with the Ravens. I mean, listen, they played the Jets. Who, by the way, I have a Jets guy on my AFC Shakedown. We did our predictions, our season. He had them winning 9 to 10 games. I said 7 to 8, and I think
they're going to win 10 games.
Yeah, and I think I was being nice at 7 and 8. Going back and looking at that schedule, if you guys look at that Jets schedule, man, it's a rough schedule. And they don't even have their starting quarterback for at least until week 5. So but whatever, that's speaking. But I didn't think the Ravens were like awesome. Lamar had a pretty good game, but I think he's still limited. I think they didn't help him by getting rid of their receiver. He has one weapon, and that's Mark Andrews. If you take away that and just kind of shadow him, I think you could beat him, which we have in the past. We took away Mark Andrews, by the way, in the playoffs like that. He had no weapons to go to. So I don't think Baltimore's a real threat. I like their defense, but offensively, I think is where they're going to stall in the playoffs. They might be a playoff team, but I think they'll stall in the playoffs because of offense.
Yeah, the offensive line's beat up.
Yeah, and they're limited.
Yeah, Ronnie Stanley's not back. J.K. Dobbins is just now going to be now getting back from his injury, so they'll have a running back finally. So you'll see them get better as the year goes. I think as they get healthier, but that's saying they can stay healthy. They already lost another corner, I think, to
full up the season.
Yes, for the season. Like they have like the worst luck recently of just getting hurt left and right. But moving on, one of the prime games this week is Buccaneers Saints. Tommy, I'll start with you. Thoughts on the Buccaneers Saints?
Saints always play the Bucs tough. I do not know why. The Buccaneers should win, and I say it every time. But for some reason, it's like one of those teams that Tom Brady just does not play well against or gives them fits. I don't know why. But I still have the Bucs. I think the Bucs are going to win. Jameis Winston is such a
up and down.
He's so up and it's so hard to predict what he's going to do. I don't because he is talented. He really is. But then he makes so many dumb mistakes too. Like you don't know what you're going to get week after week. And I think he's a little banged up too. They said going into that game. So, I'll take the Buccaneers, but I will say I wasn't impressed week 1 against the Cowboys. It wasn't like they lit them up, but I did also say, and I told Kurtz when we did our show last week, that I thought Tom Brady would come out not a little slow because he missed a lot of training camp, personal stuff, whatever's going on. And it would take him a little bit to get into Tom Brady groove of things. I think he'll get into the Tom Brady groove of things against the Saints. You'll see the Tom Brady of last year. And I think I don't think this will be close. I think Tampa wins by a couple of touchdowns.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Saints didn't even play good against the Falcons.
Rebuttal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too familiar with either team. I was just so impressed last year with the way the defense beat Brady.
Mm-hmm.
And that offensive line was beat up. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, I really have you would expect Brady to take it, but I don't know. I'm not even familiar with either one of those teams. So I'm just going to let you guys do the talking on that one.
All right. Yeah, ultimately, I do think it's going to be the Bucs as well. I think they're a more talented team. I trust Brady more than I trust Jameis. I also like the Bucs defense better than I like the Saints defense. Although the Honey Badger helps bring some of that nasty and some of that pedigree to that defense, at the end of the day, I think the Bucs outlast them. Although Brady is 0-3 in the regular season against them.
Yeah, it's great.
The only time he's beat them is in the playoffs when it matters. So,
right. And that's all that matters. By the way, Bill's Mafia Fox, I guess. Okay. Why the sunglasses? I just always wear them since I started this podcast, and that is a staple of me, man. That is who I am. So,
Tommy being Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy being Tommy. But I've never done one without my sunglasses. So, it is what it is, man. I don't know if it bothers
Tommy,
you, but
we've been friends. We've been friends for about a little bit over a year now. I don't think I've ever seen you without your sunglasses.
Yeah, and I also have, and just to throw this out, everyone, like I have sensitive eyes. I really do. Light bothers my eyes. So, not saying that the computer screen would, but it does kind of bother me a little bit. But I just always wore them. But anyways, that's your question answered.
So game 2. Dolphins Ravens. Curtis, I'll start with you. What are you expecting, Dolphins Ravens?
It's such a crazy matchup. Both offensive lines are beat up. Both defensive fronts are very tough. So it's really going to be a patience game. And can the Dolphins get those big plays with Edmonds and Waddle and Hill and to take it to that next level, to get that extra edge? Or will Lamar figure out the zero blitz, learn from last year, and make them pay to get and make some magic happen? To me, it's all about who can survive and not make the most mistakes with the pressure that's definitely coming. I mean, if you'll go over and you look at the front of the Ravens, it is brutal. They're brutal players. They're always tough. They're always big. They're always nasty. And Dolphins got a finesse front. But we've got some really good edge rushers, and they've got weaknesses at the tackles. So it's really going to come down to me. Jalen Phillips, is he going to show who he is with all that athleticism and get to Lamar? Or is Lamar going to get loose and pick some yards up? And, maybe Tua can make something happen, because last year the Ravens had a couple coverage breakdowns, and he picked up like 2 touchdowns on total breakdowns. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to beat them, though, in Baltimore. It's just so nasty. Oh, so nasty.
Tough game. What's your thoughts? Well, my thoughts, I think it's going to be a close game. I do. I like your defense. I've been saying that since last season. I think your defense is what keeps you in the games. It's your offense that worries me. I've said that since last season as well, and I'm right about that. But your defense, you have great corners. I like your D-line. And that's what that's what keeps you in the games. That's what kept you. And let's be honest, in last week's games against Mac Jones, if you guys weren't that good on D, who knows how that game goes last week? You had a turnover on Mac Jones. You kind of turned to switch all around on Mac Jones. So in that Patriots offense. So I had the Ravens winning, but I think it's going to be closer than people think.
Well, what's the score? I think it would be like 3 to 7 points.
I'm not impressed by. I'm telling you, I'm not impressed by the Ravens offense. So I'm going to go. Nah. I'm going to go 24-17 Ravens win.
I'm thinking 13-20, one way or the other.
Okay. Yeah, that's a close. See, I'm good with that. Low score, low 20s, something like that.
Yeah. And honestly, it's a defensive battle. It's what offense provides the big play. What defense gives up the big play. That's what it's going to come down to at the end of the day. I do think it's going to be close as well. Yeah. I'll be surprised if they both hit 20 points, to be perfectly honest with you, because they're two really stingy defenses with limited offenses. If the Dolphins don't stay disciplined, Lamar could have a big game. But if they stay as disciplined as they have been, because I love what the Dolphins do from a defensive standpoint. Your secondary is one of the best in the league, and I absolutely love Javon Holland. I think he's an X factor. But it's going to come down to that. Can your D-line contain Lamar enough to not let him make big plays? Don't give up that big play, and you guys got a real shot to win this thing.
Yeah, if he throws it Howard, it could get ugly.
Yeah,
he's just
turnovers may play a big part. They really will.
I think what defense fumbles from the quarterback. I think these quarterbacks are going to get hit.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's where we go back to the Tua thing. Will he stay healthy? These hits. Yeah, because it's just. But yeah, I think that's going to be a close game, and it wouldn't shock me if the Dolphins win. But I have the Ravens winning.
If they win, if the Dolphins win this week,
that's a great start for you guys.
I mean, I'm gonna grow some hair or something, because it really will. It will say a lot. To go into Baltimore, I don't think we've been one there in a decade or 2 decades.
One of the best home fields too. They don't lose at home.
No,
going against a seasoned coach too, a guy that's
you're going to get an absolute vet. Which McDaniels outcoached Belichick, but I don't think it was so much Belichick as it was Patricia. These guys are a well-oiled machine. If we can go beat them, I will feel. I mean, because basically you got Ravens and then the Bills, and that's going to tell the story of this Dolphins team. The next 2 weeks going to tell the story.
Yep.
Yeah.
They don't have to win them. They don't have to win them, But if they're within like 3 points of either of these
Make it a
teams,
game.
in
Don't
there.
get blown
Yeah.
out.
or 6 points, that's like, whoa. Because there's
Right.
a long stretch of the Dolphins playing like weaker teams. So if they
Yep.
could just even show themselves. So I'm hoping for something close because I might start streaking a house if it's even close.
Okay, let's move on to the third game. And we'll have 5 that we'll talk about today. Titans Bills. Tommy, we'll start with you.
Well, we just talked about it, so I won't be too long. I think this is going to be a typical Titans game where they're going to, lean on the run with Derrick Henry because that's what they do. I think the Buffalo Bills improved D-line will limit Derrick Henry and force Ryan Tannehill to throw a little bit more than he wants to, or the Titans want him to. And we get some takeaways because of that. I think we rush our 4 like we've been doing. I think we get home a few times. I think there's going to be turnovers. And I don't think this game's going to be close. I really don't. You're coming to a crazy loud stadium opening night in Buffalo. I think the crowd's going to play a factor as well. Once things get loud, I think Tannehill is going to start to he's not going to hear well. It's kind of like Stafford in LA, which is funny. And I just think Titans O-line's struggling a little bit. And I don't see they have the weapons. They lost A.J. Brown, which is a huge loss for them.
Julio.
Julio Jones, which is that veteran wide receiver on the outside. So they're very limited on offense besides Derrick Henry. You control Derrick Henry, and I think that's the game right there. I don't think they can stop us on offense. I think our offense right now is clicking on all cylinders, dating back since the playoffs. It seemed like it started where it left off and gotten better. I think Gabe Davis is going to be a problem for them as well. I think Dawson Knox is going to play a much better game than you saw in the first week, which wasn't a bad game. It was more of a defensive for him to block more. I think he'll play a factor in this game. And I think Devin Singletary will also play a factor in this game as well. And I think this game's not close.
Okay. Curtis, rebuttal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a rebuttal at all because, Saffold and Quisenberry left. All offensive line, they brought in some rookies. They have a lot of question marks. Your defensive line is ferocious and deep. And to me, that's the whole thing. This Titans need – I like that. 28.
Oh, look at T-Jab. T-Jab.
I hope you are Nostradamus.
I like it.
I just don't see – I'm actually doing a podcast on Sunday about the Bills-Titans game. So I've watched the Bills. I know the Bills. So I just got to sit down over today and tomorrow and just watch a lot of tape on the Titans to see where they're at because I kind of knew where they were, but there was a lot of changes like you guys talked about. Mm-hmm. But they're in Buffalo, and the offensive lines doesn't have the same kind of studs. They got a lot of stuff on defense. They got a lot of rookies, a lot of guys that were injured that are coming back. So I don't know exactly where that defense is at. I just have a hard time believing that they're going to be able to keep pace and they're going to be able to hold off Van Noy and the rest of the crew to win this one. So Vrabel's really good, though. He does some magic, man, with that defense. I wouldn't be surprised if it was somehow relatively close, but I also wouldn't be surprised with a total blowout either because I just don't know how, even with all that magic on the road, with all this inconsistency on offense, you're going to keep it close. So I would say Bills are going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really see how they can
into what you were saying, Curtis. They have a rookie right tackle, 3 interior guys who are on the injury report, and Taylor Lewan, who has not ranked well in third down situations and pass protection. So I think that's where they really struggle is from a run game standpoint. Like they've been able to bully teams because of their offensive line. You know, Roger Saffold and Questenberry were both a big piece of that last year. And now they're on the other.
They're on your team.
yeah. Now they're on the other sideline. You know, I think that's going to be a big piece of it. And then the lack of weapons. You know, they've lost their CB1 and Christian Fulton. He's already ruled out for the game. So they are going to have Farley and like another guy who's just called up. So I mean, Kevin Byard's still a stud safety, They still, they don't have Harold Landry. He's out for the season with the torn ACL. They still have Jeffrey Simmons and Bud Dupree. Those three guys on defense are going to have to find a way to create turnovers in order for them to stay in this. But I do.
Simmons is a monster.
Yeah, yeah. And so at the end of the day, and I predicted it's going to be a blowout. I think it was like 38 to 13 or 17 or something like that. I think the Bills are going to run roughshod. So moving on to the fourth game, we got the Vikings-Eagles. I'll start with you, Curtis.
Vikings. I've been saying for a long time, Cousins isn't as bad as he's made out to be. He's had really a bad framework, poor offensive line. Coaching's been iffy, and if you go look at what he's been able to do through all that, it hasn't been like the way they portray him as. So then he comes out and he just blows the doors open. The team rips apart. Who do they play this week again? Green Bay, right?
Yeah, they played Green Bay and
they eviscerated them. They dominated them and controlled them. Came out. I watched the game. I was watching for Zach Tom to see how he played. Mm-hmm. Cousins had a couple big throws early on. Jefferson looks like this guy's going to be all world.
How do you not cover that guy?
I don't know if they can. I don't know what the deal is. We'll see. This week will be a big week to see because, Eagles are a tough team. Jalen Hurts is really, he's not pretty, but he's doing something.
Effective.
And they've got so many picks from trading back and bringing guys in, and they've got a bunch of talent at that receiver position, and they look like they're building something. I thought it was like a pipe dream, but they actually look like they're building something. And I'm really surprised to say it, but the Eagles versus the Vikings is a game that I'm actually going to invest in. I'm going to spend time watching because I find it very intriguing. I would like to see the Eagles and the Vikings be those resurgent franchises to take over the conference, the NFC conference. Mm-hmm. So, but I still think that Cousins is going to outthrow the Eagles. I think that maybe this could be the year that this guy finally says, hey, I'm not the redhead stepchild. I am actually pretty good. So it's not a really highly educated opinion because I haven't watched either of those teams too much. But I'm going to go with the Vikings and the redhead stepchild pulling away a close one.
Tommy?
Yeah, I got the Vikings over the Eagles. Justin Jefferson is really, really good. Kirk Cousins, man, he's been around for a minute. He is kind of like Winston again to me. He's one of those guys that he has really good games, and some games he just isn't there. Like I don't know what happens with him, but Hurts. He had a good game last week, but he also made some bad mistakes as well. I like their team. I like their defense, but I think it's going to be kind of a back and forth game up until the fourth quarter. And I think that's where Minnesota kind of pulls it out. And I think they win by like 10 points. I think they wind up winning by about 10 points on the road. And I think Justin Jefferson has a big game as well.
Okay. And I will actually take the counterpoint to you guys. I think Phillies being at home is going to play an advantage here. Kirk Cousins struggles in primetime games, and he always has his whole career.
That's true.
I love what the Vikings are doing. I think this is actually going to be a playoff rematch later on in the year. I think both these teams make the playoffs. But I will take the Eagles because they're at home. I like what they're doing with Jalen Hurts. He's not the greatest passer, but they're able to get out. Then when they have Devonta Smith and AJ Brown, Miles Sanders looks better and rejuvenated coming out of the back. Their offensive line, the Eagles' offensive line is one of the best in the league. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I'll take the Eagles at home. I'll take it more of like a 27-21 win. I think it's going to be close.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to be watching that game and I'll be thinking about you, 27-21.
Right? So our bonus game,
he was right.
the bonus game of the week, Washington Commanders at Detroit Lions. Tommy, you're the local boy. Tell me.
I am the local boy. So the Commanders 1-0 versus Lions 0-1. Commanders. I'm not a fan of Washington. I like their D line's pretty good. I like their D line. I'm just not a fan, man. I think Detroit at home, they're again, another opportunity at home. The crowd, by the way, if you watch that game, they were loud. They were really, that was probably the loudest I heard Lions fans in a long time. They usually are not that into the game. I think they're going to bring it again. And I think Detroit winds up pulling this one off because Detroit has some weapons. I'm telling you, they got the running back Swift. They got St. Brown, who's going to be a good receiver in this league. And man, his dad, by the way, bust. Yeah, exactly. So, and I think their defense, I know they gave up a lot of points against the Eagles, but they could play better. They have some playmakers on there. So I don't think Washington's going to do what the Eagles did, which is a high scoring game. And I think Detroit winds up pulling this one off at home for Dan Campbell. The players are going to fight there. It's probably going to be something like 27-17. I think the Lions win pretty big here for Dan.
Okay. Curtis?
I don't know. Wentz, he's just.
I hate Wentz, by the way.
Can't stand 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. It just somehow he always finds a way to melt down, And
always has.
And what was the kid's name? Hutchinson.
Oh, he's a beast.
The number 2 pick.
Yeah. How did he do week 1? How did he do week 1?
He didn't get any sacks, but he created a lot.
He was
of pressure.
there. He was there.
He created a lot of pressure in the backfield. He didn't get home, but you have to remember that offensive line that the Eagles have is one of the best in the league, and now they're going to go play against the Commanders, who have probably bottom 10 to 12. I'm guessing 20 down. Their offensive line
pieces. That guy Cosme's pretty good.
Yeah, they have a few good pieces, but they don't play together. I'm not a fan of Wentz. I'm not a fan of Wentz. I love Terry McLaurin. You never know what you're going to get.
Young is still injured, right? Young is still injured.
Yeah, he didn't play last week. I'm not sure if he's playing this week. I'm not a big fan of Antonio Gibson. You're not sure what you're going to get out of the guy. I just don't know if he's used right there because he's more of a receiving back than a between the tackles guy. So it's gonna be a tough game. I think the Lions win as well. So, but we'll leave this one to you, Curtis.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Lions. I love my Lions. I got my powder blue shirt on. It's not.
There you go.
It's Lions blue. Lions blue.
Are you hear that, Dolphin fan? So he's not a sellout. All right, he's not.
I like Dan Campbell. I like what they're doing there. They're almost always tough. So I definitely think they're gonna win. I couldn't tell you with the points. I mean, I can't stand what's his face, the quarterback that I got. What's his name from the Rams?
Goff.
Yeah, Goff. He's almost an equal disaster of Wentz, So, but I think Campbell's going to have it under control. They'll run the football. Like their offensive line's building. So I'm definitely going.
They have a really good. They have a really solid young O line, and then they have the 2-headed monster with Williams and Swift, which I love.
And Hawkinson,
they have Hawkinson. They have St. Brown. They have Chark, and at some point they'll get Jameis Williams. They're the first-round pick.
That's right.
This year.
Forgot about him
later in the year. To bring that deep threat into play. I really like what the Lions are doing.
What are they going to do for quarterback? They got to do something.
I think they address that next draft.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think they'll.
Are they going to have a pick high enough to achieve that?
Yeah, they will because they're not going to. They're going to win in. Yeah, I think exactly. I think they're going to be like a 7-win team, which is fine. I tell people don't get too down on how many wins. So I think there's 7 wins. They'll be in the top 10 somewhere. If not, they'll trade up. I could see them trading up to get a quarterback if they really want one that they, see one they like. But they need one. Like that is the missing piece there right now. Like, and then once you get that,
too.
Yeah. So I think they'll be fine. They know Goff. Listen, here in Detroit, they know he's not the answer. It was just they had to get rid of Stafford. They got something in return.
Yeah.
And he's serviceable. And I think he still will be serviceable next year if you draft a quarterback. One more year with him.
Bench, let Goff play it out.
Yeah, that's all.
They're a young team, bring in a quarterback, trade up, trade a few first round draft picks. You telling me there's not going to be a bunch of teams willing to trade back to get a bunch of Detroit first round picks?
Always
thinking
is.
that they're going to be the mess that they've always been.
Yeah.
I have a feeling MCDC,
Yep.
is changing the culture there. I like what I'm seeing from the Lions.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see.
But that covers our week 2 review. So we'll see how we did come next week.
We sure will.
Yeah, I don't put the scores like you guys. I can't. That is like not in my process. I can't process it like that. I've never done that in my life. I'm trying to get there.
We're trying to make it fun.
27-21. That's all I'm going to be doing. Wait, 27-21.
Listen, I like vision how the game's going to play out when I start looking at that stuff. I don't know why. I've done it since I was little. I like eat, sleep, love sports. It's what I do. So, I come on here and share it. I just share what I think. I could be right. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just some putter on a microphone.
Boy, in my mind, every game is going to be 13-20. I keep thinking 1980s and 90s. Right, it's going to be 13-20 or 14-21 or maybe a crazy 21-24. That's all I can ever think of.
Not in this NFL.
I can't ever think 30, man.
Curtis wants to turn it. Yeah, he wants to turn the TV on and be like, "Hear the old school." And right here at the Green Bay Packers.
And they run like 4 plays. It's the wing T offense. That's what Curtis wants to see.
Right.
I don't know.
Oh, my God.
All right, buddy. You know what? You don't have to give us game scores. Me and Tommy do it because that's just the way we foresee games. Just give your analysis. You're fantastic.
I'm going to try. I'm going to get my scores. From now on, every game's going to be 27-21.
I bet you hit 50% of the time. I bet you
hit crazy numbers. That's like letting your hair down. It's a wild, high-scoring game, 27-21.
Right. In the tundra.
In the frozen tundra.
Oh, my. And here comes Curtis. Curtis is waving his team flag. All right. Well, anyways, guys, thanks for joining us. Next week we will be on Ace Per Head's channel at 9:30 for
screw it up. I'm gonna have Tommy come early.
Yeah, that was such you guys. Last week was not the greatest start for first live feed ever, but we're gonna get it right this time. On Curtis's channel, Ace Per Head, at 9:30 next Friday, NFL overtime. And tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Fantasy Kingdom, which is fantasy football that me and Mikey do with Howie. And then at 6 o'clock, AFC East Shakedown.
Wait.
Oh, whoa.
I got to apologize. I told Tommy I was going to be on the show, and I said yes. He said 6 o'clock, but he didn't tell me a day. And then I thought it was Friday today before this one. And then I realized on Saturday I had to go someplace with my kids. I stuck it to Tommy, guys. No. So when you see a big empty for the Dolphins, that was me screwing Tommy over.
So
I'm sorry, Tommy.
So here's what I'm going to do because of that. So by the way, Scott Blakely, big fan of yours. Curtis, he's in the building. He says hi. And yes, I'm in again. So Captain D won't be joining us tomorrow. Juan won't be joining us tomorrow. Joe won't be joining us tomorrow. So it's going to be me and Trevor, and I'm going to be representing the Dolphins and the Jets. So I'll try to be nice for you guys as best as I can, but don't expect it. Don't expect it.
Not after I stuck it to you.
I'm gonna be your typical Jets fan. Hey, what are we talking about over here? Jets. We should have won.
You can make fun of the Dolphins, but don't make fun of New York.
Hey, what are you talking about? We're going to the Super Bowl. All right, guys. Anyways, we're out of here. Curtis needs to get his rest, sleep. Mikey needs to go get something to eat because he's on the West Coast, and I need to watch TV. I'm out of here, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Go
Bills. Peace out.